check for any. Hi, I think we're working. Okay, I don't really know how to figure out if we are working or not. Oh, I got a crazy hair going on here. All right, we're gonna get started here in about 10 minutes. Wonderful. Erin's giving me a heads up that we sound well. Do we have any echoes or anything like that going on, Erin?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, wonderful. Well, everybody just give us about 10 minutes. We will be ready to rock and roll. This is our first live online broadcast, so we're excited but also nervous because technology is hard. Is it working on Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's working everywhere.
Are live. Oh. Look at this funky hair going on over here. What is that?
That's great.
Right. No, I don't think we even took it that way. All right.
If you're on, give us a wave, check in, let us know that you're here. As we're going through everything tonight, if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. And please let us know how we can continue to help. All right, we're going to get started here in about 10 minutes. What's that?
That just popped up.
Neat.
You're like, hi.
Hi. Yes.
Yeah. Right on our Facebook.
Very cool. I'm on.
It's putting your words.
Well, we just learned something new. There's subtitles, so even better.
It's fun.
This is fun. I close the door so no one can interrupt us.
Can't mess up. That's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure. I know. Should we put on some Pandora?
Wait music.
Got 5 minutes. We can listen to some Pandora. Oh, thanks, Dad. 90s country, anybody? We'll keep it chill because we're going to talk about stress. So we want things that are very calming. Can you change to the next slide? No. I do it with this one.
Yeah, this just has to be in the front. Yeah, and then you can have.
Yeah, figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Stay and watch you go. Tell
I want to know. My dad fell off of a trailer.
Great.
Obviously might have broke his ankle. According to the comments.
Oh no.
According to his comment. Might have broke his ankle. Hi everyone. We're gonna start here in about 3 minutes. Give everyone a chance to get online and join us. Oh, I wanted to show you something that I think would be funny if we could put online or somewhere.
Oh, that's a good one. Try TikTok.
Right? Yeah. So next week, if you have an appointment in the office, we might be busting out Corona Bingo. So it is a bingo card that basically lets us know how many squares you have checked, and it's things like working from home, you ordered food delivery, you used Zoom, you forgot what day it was, you cleaned, you shopped online, you've tried TikTok, you've tried a couple different things. So we'll figure out how to make this a fun game next week in the office, and we'll see who's got as many Corona bingos, and we'll come up with a fun prize or something for it.
Questions? Leave a comment.
All righty. We are about to rock and roll here. We're excited. If someone else joins.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, it was like the video.
I saw that.
Like, can they mute it? How do they join it? All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started so that we can make sure we cover everything tonight. So first and foremost, hello, welcome. For those of you that are not a current patient in our office and maybe this video was shared with you tonight to join, I am Dr. Alicia Bloom. My husband and I own Marble City Family Chiropractic here in Knoxville. We are a Max Living Health and Wellness Center, just ideally, focusing on what we call the 5 essentials to health, which are just foundational principles to healthy living, which include nutrition and stress management, which are things we're going to talk about tonight, quality chiropractic care, movement, and minimizing your toxins. So we're going to figure out and kind of walk through how all of those things, especially in the last couple months, can really play a massive role in aiding you as we move through a stress response. And we're going to walk through kind of what a stress response is and how we can help not only ourselves, but maybe help our family members, our coworkers, kind of go through that. And so before we get started, I do want to just, give a shout out to everybody right now who's not only joining, but also who has just put in a lot of work in the last couple months, for especially to all of our essential workers. So our office was essential. And so, a shout out to my staff, to my team. If you were a essential worker, you knew that pretty much every time that you showed up to work, there was a lot of change. There was a lot of different things going on, and it was changing constantly. And so I want to shout out just to, Dr. Jason, Dr. Nico, to Aaron, to Melissa, to Jenny, who have really stepped up as we had to make all of our changes in our office. And then to also all of our healthcare workers, our frontline workers, our everybody that has been out there making sure that everyone is either staying safe or getting all of the goods and the services and the needs that they required, to make sure that we could really work through all of this together. So just wanted to start with that. And before we get started, since it's a stress management workshop this evening, I want to just start by taking a couple deep breaths in and a couple deep breaths out. Breath work is really powerful. And so as we're doing that, it's a great way to not only just calm your nervous system, but to really kind of regroup and to ground yourself. And so some of the best ways that I like to take nice deep breaths is so synchronized breathing. So you're going to take a 3-second count in and a 5-second count out. So we're going to do that just a couple times, and then we're going to get going. So if you're sitting there, let your shoulders relax, let all that tension in your neck go, roll the shoulders back, let your hips kind of relax a little bit. Take a deep breath in. One more really good breath with me. Okay, let's go. So, how stressed are we? So if you can see the screen, I thought it was kind of funny to put on our stress reduction kit, which is just a symbol of bang head here, right? All of us handle stress in different ways. And the last couple months have been far more challenging than I think any of us ever could have anticipated, expected, or honestly even prepared for. Some of us were not only change, and it happened quickly, and it happened to pretty much every aspect of your life. And that was one of the biggest things that I kind of wanted to go through. Like, it happened to not only, what your work life, your home life, your social life, our spiritual lives, our emotional lives, everything got changed. And so a lot of times I felt just very overwhelmed by a lot of this. And so one of the things that, and of course, if you're on social media and you're on Facebook and that, you see a lot of the different like Jumanji references that we've been going through different things, from quarantine to lockdown to murder hornets to who knows what is coming in the future. And a lot of people are like, man, we should just really restart this year over. And that was something that I've definitely had those same feelings. But there was something I found today that I thought was really interesting, and I kind of wanted to use this to set the tone for the evening, where it was, what if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year that we've all been waiting for? A year that is so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw that it finally forces us to grow, right? That's a big one. But what if it's a year that screams so loud that it's finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber, our routines, and a year that we finally accept the need for change. We declare change, we work for change, we become the change. In a year that we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart, 2020 isn't canceled, but rather maybe the most important year of them all. And I thought that is a great way to start this, because no matter how you have handled the last couple months, whether you've been overwhelmed, where you felt isolated, where you felt down, maybe you felt more empowered, maybe you got an opportunity at work to step up, maybe you were pushed and challenged in ways that you never thought that you could manage, maybe you're a homeschooling parent now, maybe you juggled more things than you thought were imaginable, but you survived. And so let's use that to continue to move forward. And so one of the things that what basically we're going to go through tonight in the outline are kind of the top 5 stressors that I think are the things that we can control. And so there's so much stuff that is outside of our control. And for someone who's like me, who is a high I perfectionist control freak, the last couple months have been very challenging, not being able to control a lot of things. But the things that I found that I think we can control are, what we're putting in our body. So we are going to talk about food. We're going to talk about our sugar intake, food swaps, how you're basically nourishing your body. We're going to talk about our movement patterns. So if we're exercising, if we're not exercising, what does our home life look like? What does our workspace look like? We're going to talk about the overall impact of stress, not only on a hormone level, but also affecting your nervous system, affecting your mental state. And then we're going to talk about how that kind of also affects our physical stress. Because chemical, emotional, and physical stress, they're all very interrelated. So your chemical stresses are not only your hormones, but the physiological things that are happening in your body, but also the things that we're exposed to. So what we're putting in our body in the way of food, is it full of nourishment and minerals and vitamins that we need? Or are we putting in a lot of toxic processed foods that aren't really giving us the vital, like I said, nutrients that we're looking for? Are we being exposed to obviously more cleaning chemicals than we have ever before? Is that causing some sort of health issue? The emotional state of all of this, is that causing a hormone imbalance in our body? And then how is that all presenting physically? And then what can we do about it? So let's get started. So what's crazy is, before all of this has gone on in the last couple months, the 21st century was already deemed a health epidemic in stress by the American Psychological Association. So this was something that was already a growing problem. And so stress is something that we are a constant, on the go, want it right now, instant gratification culture, right? And so we've got technology, we've got information at our fingertips whenever we want it. We are pushed to be going nonstop. So, most people wake up in the morning, get the kids ready for school, they drop them off at school, they go to work all day long, they pick them up, we've got practice, we've got here, somehow we have to fit dinner and homework in, and then we have a bedtime routine, and that's not including weekend activities and family time and quality time and doing all and rest, right? All these other things. And so we've been juggling this work personal life, and then having, relationships, and just all of this stuff that we've been taking on. So before, 2020 happened, the average American on a scale from 0 out of 10 ranked their lives a 5 out of 10 of stress that was presenting as chronic stress. In the last 90 days, the average American is ranking themselves at a 7 out of 10, which is very unhealthy. And an at-home working parent who is also homeschooling, taking care of their children, is average ranking at a 7.6. So that is really crazy when we start to look at that, where we've been worried about how much stress we've been under over the last 10, 15, 20 years. But then you add something like this, like, what does that look like long-term for us? And I know in not only the healthcare world, but just in general, this is something that is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds, of what is this short-term stress response going to do to us long-term, not only for our mental health, but just moving forward as a culture, as a country, and as like a world. So breaking down how stress happens. Okay. So there's basically two stress responses. So naturally, when your body is functioning at ease, we are in a good place. We have normal function, brain's telling your body how to work. Everything is firing on all cylinders. It's something called homeostasis. This is your normal. This is what your body should be doing. Okay. And then we have a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system. So your sympathetic nervous system kicks in when you are in danger, right? So this is your fight or flight system. So fight or flight is a very good thing. It is a mechanism of survival that our body needs to be able to work and move forward. So these are things that happen where, say someone cut you off on the interstate, right? So your adrenaline pops up real quick. You're all of a sudden very alert. Maybe your kids are playing a joke on you and they jumped out and tried to scare you, right? Maybe you've had some sort of stressor at work where a deadline got moved up and you weren't prepared for it. Maybe you're out in the wild and you're being chased by a bear, right? These are natural things that can happen that cause a stress response. So basically your body physiologically adapts to that, and one of two things happens. You're either getting ready to fight or you're getting ready to flight. Or run away. Okay. So your pupils dilate, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your adrenaline kicks in, cortisol kicks in. These are your stress hormones. These are the natural things that are supposed to happen when you are in a state of fight or flight. Now, when you become out of danger or you get to a point of safety, your body is supposed to transfer back to homeostasis, right? And start to heal and start to recover. Now, the problem is, what if we get into a state of fight or flight and we don't come out of it and it starts turning chronic? Okay. And so the problem with this is that for a lot of people, this is when it starts to become long-term health issues. And so what that looks like for people, sorry, I got two computers going here, so I'm trying to make sure I get everything right. So when it starts turning into like more of a chronic issue, this is when you start to see people or patients or friends or family members start getting into that point of like shutdown or exhaustion, right? So this can really play a huge role in anxiety and depression, in adrenal fatigue. That's going to be something I want to address in a little bit about adrenal fatigue. It can start just showing up in multiple different physical ways. I've had patients start getting headaches and migraines. I've had them be much more moody, right? And we're going to break down what those different effects of stress can be. But when you start hitting that long term, there have been study after studies that have linked this long-term chronic stress to heart disease, to obesity, to asthma, to diabetes, to depression, to GI issues, right? Because naturally when you're in that stress state, what's supposed to happen is your survival organs are in full drive, right? So blood pressure, lungs, that kind of stuff, because you are doing everything you can. Your parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest organs, are basically suppressed. And so that is your, digestive system, or sleeping, that stuff. So that is not a reproductive organ. So that is not in full drive. And so when we are in a chronic state of high stress, I see a lot of patients or people, even myself included, that when I'm in a high stress, high anxiety, I have way more digestive issues. I have more problems sleeping. I'm not sleeping like I need to. I see this not only in adults, but I also see it in kids, right? And so that's one of the biggest things that we have got to start basically wrapping our heads around this stress response. And then what can we do chemically, physically, and emotionally to address it? So what does that look like, and what are the things that you can control? So we're going to start with some nutrition stuff. So it is not unbeknownst to people that food and stress are interrelated, right? So when we feel more stressed out, some people eat more. So we really go towards comfort foods. So a lot of those carbs, chips, cookies, like that kind of stuff are feel-good comfort foods. Some people end up eating less, so they go into malnutrition, right? You may be selecting poor food choices because you want to feel good, because ice cream is way better than celery, right? And so these are things that, like our nutrition over time is going to affect how well our body is functioning and feeling. And so if you're already in a stress response and your body is doing everything it possibly can just to survive and get through, and we're eating gushers and fruit roll-ups and pizza rolls and nachos and that kind of stuff, we are not aiding our body's healing ability. We are making it have to work even harder. And so that's what I want to walk through are what are some things that you can do to start? Because I mean, unfortunately, the stress response isn't really going away. We're going to have this for a while. And these are things that we should be utilizing all the time. And so controlling basically what we are providing for ourselves, for our families in the way of food and nourishment is going to be a big deal. So the 4 biggest changes that you can focus on, I'm not saying going on a diet, I'm not saying detoxing, I'm not saying anything along those lines, but these are some great general rules that you can start to follow. So the first one is going to be just cleaning up our carbs, right? So I'm talking about like processed sugars, refined grains. Basically, when we talk about like in our office, what we call the core plan versus the advanced plan, right? So anytime I'm eating food, it's either, is this food making me healthy or is this food making me sick, right? So that's how we're choosing our food. So the first thing when we're cleaning up our carbs, we're trying to eliminate a lot of these refined, bleached style of food. So like white breads, a lot of our pastas, a lot of our cookies, our crackers, like that kind of stuff, because those are empty calories, right? These are not things that are filling us. They're filling space in our body, but they're not feeding our body like our body needs. And so cleaning up your carbs is going to be a big deal. So switching to things more like, instead of traditional white rice, maybe switching to a quinoa. Quinoa has more protein in it, more fiber. If you're looking for pasta, one of our favorite pastas that we promote in the office is called Banza. It's Banza. You can get it at Kroger. You can get it at Food City now. You can get it at Target even. But it's made out of chickpeas. And so with it, it has a ton of fiber and a ton of protein in it. So instead of eating these empty calories, you're actually getting like more bang for your buck, because in regards to nutrition, by what you're eating, and it's even more fulfilling. And so for like when we like make spaghetti or we make pasta salads, it's about to be barbecue season, right? So we make pasta salads. We use these Banza noodles because they cook just like regular noodles. They are kid approved. I have gotten them past my nieces and nephews. They love them, and they're delicious. But like I said, they're getting a lot more protein and fiber within them. And then if you are eating bread, trying to switch to more of like a sprouted grain bread, and that's the same when it comes to like any sort of wrap or any sort of rice. Ideally, we're looking for sprouted grains. Those just help your body digest them a lot better. It breaks it down without causing such an inflammatory response, because that's one of the biggest things with a lot of these refined carbs is they cause an inflammatory response throughout the body. The next thing we're talking about is our healthy fats. And so, yeah, perfect. So when it comes to fat, we need to realize that good fat helps burn fat, bad fat stores fat. And so that's one of my biggest rules. Whenever we're talking about fat is necessary for our body. Fat is necessary for every single cellular process that happens. And so by doing a fat-free diet, we're essentially starving our brain and starving our tissues from what it needs to be able to function. And so we look at, our different kinds of fats. So those bad fats, those ones that you want to eliminate or completely avoid, are going to be your hydrogenated fats. Those are things like cottonseed oil, soybean oils, your vegetable oils, corn oils. Trans fats are going to be things like margarine. So we want to not using margarine itself. We want to be actually going to like real butter, and or margarine, the synthetic butters, and then also staying away from the rancid vegetable oils such as like canola oil and corn oil. Now, these are not just things that you're cooking in. A lot of these oils are in things like our salad dressings. They're in our crackers. They're in a lot of our boxed foods and condiments. And so this is stuff that make sure when you are looking at your labels that you're checking that. Does it have canola oil in it? Does it have one of these bad hydrogenated fats in it, which actually make your body more toxic, and your body doesn't know how to break it down and get rid of it. So it can cause a lot more issues. Now, the good fats, so these are things, I call them like man-made fats, right? I'm sorry, not man-made fats, God-made fats, are extra virgin olive oil. So we love olive oil. The only difference with olive oil is you want to make sure if you're cooking with it that it's more of a sauteing. It's a low heat oil. It's very heat sensitive. And so if you are cooking with olive oil, you want to make sure that it's not smoking at all. If it starts to smoke, that means that the oil itself is denaturing. And so we need to be really careful with that. So our high heat oils are going to be things like grapeseed oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil. Those are going to be much better when you are actually cooking. Other great sources of fat that people don't think about are nuts and seeds. That's a great way to get fat in. Butter, we also like ghee. Your raw grass-fed cheeses are what we're looking for, grass-fed yogurt, and then, of course, fish. So there's a great way to get a ton of good, healthy fats into your body and into your system. And that stuff right there, that good fat, it's going to help your body burn fat. It's going to help every tissue in your body, and it's going to help you be functioning at a higher level. Now, the next thing, just touching quickly like on your protein intake. So protein is going to be a really big deal. We know that a lot of our conventional protein, such as our beef, our chicken, does include eggs, as well as our fish. A lot of them have antibiotics in them, hormones in them, typically fed a grain and a corn style diet, which we know that grain and corn is very inflammatory. So you aren't just what you eat, you are what you eat eats. And so we need to be aware of what we're putting into our bodies. And so whenever we're looking for beef, I mean, ultimately the number one thing is find a local farmer. So we love Four Corners Ranch as well as Nolan Shamrock Farms. They're both local here in Knoxville. We get beef from them, and it's delicious. You can taste a huge difference in it. But we know that these are pasture-raised, grass-fed, grass-finished cows that have never had any sort of synthetic hormones or no chemicals that they've ever been exposed to. So I know for me, that's a big thing that I want to focus on. Our free range or pasture raised chicken, same thing goes with your eggs. Ideally, we do sell eggs here in the office that are pasture raised. And so looking for those labels at the store, you want to make sure that your chickens aren't being fed a bunch of corn and grains. Looking for wild caught fish versus farm raised. So wild caught by nature is going to be a little bit more unaltered is what we're looking for. Typically in farmed fish, they have to add some sort of dyes or some sort of coloring. And typically they are fed grains, corn to fatten them up, as well as antibiotics to, prevent the spread of disease. So those are things that I personally don't want to be consuming. So those are things that we look at. So I tell people all the time, if you are focusing on nutrition, we really want to put our money in our meats, and that's going to be a big thing to focus in on. And then this is something that, when you're trapped at home and the refrigerator is 30 feet away, this can be very difficult. And so that's why I made this one of the things that we can control. There's a study done by the New England Journal of Medicine that actually stated that on average, people gain between 3 and 5 pounds a year, typically during the holiday season. And majority of people, almost 90-something% of people don't lose that weight. And so if you use that, if that's 3 to 5 extra pounds a year over 10 years, that's for most people the extra 30 pounds that they're carrying around. They never actually ended up losing that holiday weight. So today we're going to call it the quarantine 15, right? So from stress, from everything else that has just been going on, like I said, you were potentially eating more often out of boredom, out of a stress response, out of whatever relationship that you have with food, that can play a huge role into that weight gain that's happened in the last couple months. And so just being aware of that is the first thing. Secondarily, making sure that we're not anchoring onto a lot of those carbs, a lot of those chips, a lot of those crackers, which are not helping our body actually burn any of those calories. And then sugar is going to be a big culprit to a lot of people's health issues. Honestly, sugar, Erin's shaking her head over here. Erin's my AV lady today. Woohoo! Sugar is probably one of today's most modern day addictive. You can call it a drug, honestly. Every single company knows that sugar is insanely addictive. And so that's why they put it in everything. And it's crazy. You'll start looking at all sorts of products. And when you start learning all the different names of sugar, so basically a good rule of thumb is for anything that ends in OSE, it's a form of sugar. So sucralose, sucrose, dextrose, what are some other good ones? Maltose. Those are all derivatives of sugar. And so when you start looking at a label and you're like, oh, it says sugar free, but then you look in the ingredients list and you see 6 different words that all end in OSE, that's something we know right there that's not true. Those are all derivatives of sugar, and it actually does have sugar in it. Now, the catch with sugar, When it comes from a natural source, such as like a fruit, right? So berries, Granny Smith like apples, watermelon, those typically have a little bit higher of a glycemic index on them. But your body knows how to break it down. It knows how to utilize it as fuel. Your body actually needs glucose for fuel. Now, the problem is when we start adding in all these processed sugars. So there's been studies that show that sugar literally decreases the function of your immune system almost immediately and can decrease it for up to 4 hours. So essentially, if you eat a huge amount of sugar, so you're eating cupcakes or you're at a birthday party and you have Kool-Aid, lemonade, cupcakes, you basically go into a full-out sugar coma. You're putting a target on your back to get sick. And so that's why more commonly people get sick in the winter, because what's happening? We're not being exposed to sunlight. We're typically not being as active. It's the holiday season. So basically, I used to say from Thanksgiving through Christmas, but honestly now I think it's like Halloween through Christmas. We are eating more sugar than we do throughout the rest of the year based on holiday parties, all of these other things that we're being exposed to. Typically we're drinking more. And so these are all things that it increases our sugar intake drastically, which affects our immune system. And so this is something right now where if you've been worried about the coronavirus, that you might be someone who is more susceptible to getting it, I would highly start looking into your intake on food and what is that doing to your immune system, right? So that's going to be a big deal. Sugar is also in things that you wouldn't think the sugar is in. So it's in almost every single condiment. So you want to be looking at that. It's in all of our fruit juices. It's in lunch meats. It's in breads. It's in table salt. And so when you start looking at all these different derivatives of sugar and actually start label reading, you're going to be shocked by how much sugar there is everywhere. And so when you're starting to feel sick or you're starting to feel just not yourself, or even if you're really anxious or you've gone through depression or anything along those lines, sugar is going to be the thing that your body is craving. And I would do everything you possibly can to try to avoid that, just from a standpoint physiologically for your health. So a couple things that we're looking at. So when it comes to sugar, like I said, it's everywhere. And there's a lot of things these days just due to, diabetes and people being more conscious about what they're putting in their foods and a lot of the, diets that are out there. So we have, paleo, keto, Whole30, like all of that. People are very aware of sugar. They're looking into it. And so biggest things that we want to look for, if you're not ready to make a lot of action steps yet, but you're ready to make an action step, the number one thing that I would say is start label reading. And if you see something that has high fructose corn syrup in it, put it back. Okay. High fructose corn syrup has been directly linked to fatty liver syndrome. It is linked to obviously type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and a lot of underlying physiological conditions that our body doesn't know what to do with it. And so it stores it in ways that we don't know how to process it. So there's a few things that you can look into. So also trying to stay away from things like Splenda, Equal, Sweet and Lows, a lot of those sugar alternatives. If you're trading sugar out for something else that is basically man-made or made in a lab, that means they just switched it out for chemicals, right? And so I don't want to put those chemicals in my body either. And a big one that's in a lot of those artificial sweeteners is going to be aspartame. And so those are things that we want to look at. So some great alternatives to, if you're still looking for sweeteners. So stevia. Stevia is a plant. It's 100 times sweeter than sugar. There's a ton of sources for stevia. You can actually get your own stevia plant and you can grow it in your backyard in your herb garden. You can dry it out, crumble it up, and use the stevia as a sweetener. You can bake with it. So that's a great alternative. Raw local honey. So that's another great way to sweeten things. We love dates. So dates, something you can actually soak them and grind them up in the blender, and they are a phenomenal sweetener. Maple syrup, coconut sugar is going to be it's a form of sugar, but it doesn't spike your blood sugar levels as high. There's also another big one, monk fruit. So these are all alternatives that aren't near as harmful to your body as a white processed sugar. Now, if you're a soda lover, a great alternative is something called Zevia or Zavia. Also something you can now find at pretty much any store. And so they're at Kroger, they're at Food City. They have all of these different flavors, from ginger root beer to Dr. Pepper to grape to Mountain Dew, cream soda, all of those. And so as someone who used to love Dr. Pepper, I love the Dr. Pepper Zevia. It's one of those things I don't drink, 5 or 6 a day, but it's nice to have one every couple days just to give you that, just something different than water. It's also a great thing if you are someone who drinks alcohol, utilizing Zevias as your mixers versus like a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi or something like that. It is going to bring down the sugar content of your drinks. So that's also going to help. And last but not least, drinking water, right? Okay. So, water. Our body needs water no matter what. And most of us do not drink enough water throughout the day. So, if you need to figure out how much water you should be drinking, the traditional 8 glasses of water a day really is not where we need to be. It is not a one size fits all. You should be drinking half of your body weight in ounces. So say you weigh 140 pounds, you should be drinking 70 ounces. If you weigh 200 pounds, you should be drinking 100 ounces. Water is necessary for every single physiological process in your body. And so this is a great way to not only help your body flush and eliminate toxins, but it also makes sure that you are not susceptible to different water retention. Dehydration can actually cause weight gain, hypertension, diabetes, and high cholesterol. And so this is something that you can control. So there's actually apps that you can download that remind you to drink water. I set an alarm on my phone. It's like a little alert that goes off twice a day. It goes off at 10:30 and it goes off at like 4, and it literally just says water. And so it's just like a quick reminder, because I'm a person that when I get going all day long, I'll look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I have like barely drank any water because I've just been going. And so that's something where I need that quick little reminder to like pull out and say, hey, I need to drink this, right? And so that would be something that I would recommend. For most people, this is something that you can control. And so trying to get your water consumption up is going to be a big deal. All right. Movement. So there's a study done by the British Journal of Sports Medicine that they were studying depression, and actually showed that exercise was better than a combination of 2 depression drugs at once in helping people. So by walking even just 30 minutes each day, the symptoms were improving faster than the antidepressant was. And so this is going to be big for most people, finding the time, carving out the time of the day to get some sort of movement pattern in. And for you, I don't care what that looks like. I'm a person where I would much rather work out really hard for a short period of time. Some people like to go on long runs. I personally have never reached a runner's high. I don't know what that is, but people say that it's great, and I applaud you for getting there. Personally, not something I've ever experienced. But probably one of the biggest things that's come out of this pandemic or everything that's happened is the at-home workout movement. Like, they've got Peloton now. Every single workout company has pretty much put all of their workouts online. You can essentially get personal training. There are so many resources now. It is crazy. And so this is something that if you've ever been scared to go to the gym, you just didn't feel comfortable going somewhere, you weren't ready for classes, you just didn't really know where your fitness levels were at, this is a great way just to start plugging in, right? And then Erin, she does workouts every single week, puts them on our Facebook page. We show the different modifications for you. Personally, I like a Tabata style, HIIT style workout. So you work out really hard for 30 seconds, rest for 20 seconds. So it's like a high intensity interval training. For me and for most people, that's a very efficient way to get your heart rate up, get into that metabolic burn zone in a much shorter period of time. And what that does is actually help your body burn fat for a longer period of time. So there's a ton of HIIT workouts. That's essentially what we typically do. It's in rounds. We'll show you modifications, but anything that you can do to just get moving. If you like walking, that's going to be great. If you like dancing, do a dance class, right? Anything that you can do just to get movement, because movement is life. And from a chiropractic standpoint, when people stop moving, that's when inflammation starts, and then it develops into arthritis, and then it develops into degeneration. That's typically when we start to see people's health gravely decline, is when all of that has settled in and we've completely lost all of our movement patterns. Any questions I need to be addressing?
We can get it at the end.
All right, cool. Erin's manning our questions over there. Okay, so we're going to hit on stress a little bit. So stress in the time of COVID-19. So what's crazy is in the last 20 years, due to stress just being an overall health epidemic, the use of antidepressants had skyrocketed over 400% in the last 20 years. And I would imagine that the state of everyone's mental state over the last couple months, that this is probably going to increase, right? Depression is among the leading causes of disability in the world. And like I said at the beginning, that this pandemic has altered every aspect of our life, from our health to our work, to our education, to exercise. And it's been really difficult for a lot of people, myself included. I don't know anybody that this hasn't had some sort of impact on, because no matter where you go or what you do, it's everywhere, right? You can't get away, you can't escape. And so this is one of those things that when we start, some of us, I guess some people don't even realize that they're under a state of stress until their body starts to shut down. And so, we all know someone that is like, hey, they're the chillest person ever. I've never even seen that person get flustered about anything, right? And so they may be someone that gets stressed out, but how they present it, how they feel it might be completely different than somebody else. And so emotional symptoms, common things that can happen when you're under a state of stress is, becoming more easily agitated, becoming frustrated, irritable, poor memory, and the ability to concentrate is a sign of stress. So I definitely have noticed before that when I have been all over the place, we have a lot of different moving parts, that I'll walk into a room and be like, what am I doing here? Or I'll start talking and I'm like, where are the words? What's happening? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I personally need to check myself and just be like, I am doing too much. I am overwhelmed. I have so much going on. I am not focusing on what I need to focus on. Feeling overwhelmed, feel like you're losing control or that you need to take control, feeling very anxious, feeling like you can't quiet your mind, having a low self-esteem, feeling lonely or feeling bad about yourself. Some people move more into showing symptoms or signs of obsessive compulsions or reverting back to something that they did a long time ago, and really finding yourself that you're basically wanting to avoid interacting with people. And so those are a lot of the emotional portions of it. The physical aspects of it are, the low energy. For some people, they get headaches, to migraines, to the blurry vision, because when you get really stressed out, we end up clenching and tensing, and then that turns into a tension headache. Like I said, the GI issues are a big deal. I see a lot of people with a lot of stomach issues, and that could be constipation, diarrhea, not digesting food, bloating, all sorts of things when you're stressed. Chronic aches, muscle pains, tense chest pains, rapid heartbeat, not sleeping, feel like you're getting sick more often, a low sex drive. So those are all symptoms of being stressed. So it's not a one size fits all, and every single person and every individual is going to experience and handle stress in a completely different way. So we need to start, I moved that one, not this one, sorry. So we need to start identifying some of our stressors. So major life events and changes. So that's something that some of these external stressors, these are things that honestly are kind of out of our control or could be out of our control. So major life changes, pandemic, right? A new marriage, maybe a planned pregnancy, maybe a promotion or a new house. These don't always have to be bad things, right? They could be great things, but I call these green stresses. So green stresses it's still stress. You're still having to deal with it, but it's a stress that it's for a good thing, but it's making you have to work a lot harder. You're having more things going on than what you're prepared for. It could be taking care of a family member who's sick. It could be a death of a family member. It could be a divorce, right? So these are all things that cause external stressors. Our environment, right? So input from the external world. And these days and age, it is very difficult to put up boundaries and protect yourself from all of that because it's constant. And I have a whole slide on that we're going to go over in just a minute. Unpredictable events. So unplanned things that are out of the blue. It could be something small, like someone dropped by your house and you weren't prepared for it. Your rent went up, you got a pay cut, unplanned things. Your workplace, so your work environment. I mean, for most people, they're at work as long as they're with their families, right, or more. And so your workplace is going to play a massive role in your overall levels of stress and what that environment looks like. And then socially, so meeting new people, finding friends, sometimes can be hard. Relationships, issues with friends or family, that kind of stuff. And then your internal stressors. So a lot of these are like fears that whether you believe them or not, these can be self-induced fears. These can be things that have happened to you. These are fears like, a fear of flying, a fear of public speaking, uncertainty, a lack of control. So, in all honesty, I know that, like I said, I'm a control freak. And so one of my fears are that, like, when I'm in a car and I'm not driving a car, that because I'm out of control, is that something bad's going to happen, right? And so it's something that I have to work on a lot. You can ask Jason. It's not great, but I work really hard at it. But these can be attitudes, opinions, expectations, and just all of these things that are internal stressors or beliefs and systems that we have created that cause a stress response. And so figuring out what you can do to not only acknowledge your stressors, know your stressors, but then also know when you're going to be in a situation where a stress response could be heightened or you're going to be challenged in one of these. And so I would say probably the hardest thing is setting a boundary for that. And so honestly, our mainstream media, social media over the last couple months has been brutal, right? And not only just with what we've been exposed to, but it's a lot of negativity. It's a lot of constant bombardment. And like I said, you can't really get away from it. And so in the last couple months, like, our boundaries have been challenged, our agreements have been challenged, our expectations have changed. And so for some people, it presents differently. So like, maybe this is your personal hygiene, right? So maybe the first couple days that you were working from home, you got up every day, you took a shower, you brushed your teeth, you did everything. But honestly, after time in isolation, it changes people. And so you'll start seeing being much more casual when typically you're a very professional person. You're showing up, you're just putting a ball cap on and you're doing whatever, and you're jumping on your Zoom meeting. We've completely let our daily routines fall to the wayside because prolonged isolation really does have a significant psychological impact on us. And I think the hardest part for a lot of people is that working from home has completely eliminated your work home boundaries, right? And I've had patients be telling me that, like, they're like, oh my God, my neck and my shoulders are killing me. And so we'll talk about ergonomics in a workspace here in a moment. But one of the biggest things they'll say is like, man, I'm working pretty much constantly because it's always right in front of me, or I'll take a little break, but then I know that, like, I should still be doing things. And so I jump back on the computer and I just keep going. And so a lot of people end up working more. Some people end up working less because they're trying to homeschool. They're trying to juggle all of these other activities. The dogs are doing who knows what, and it's really hard to focus. So then they feel like their productivity levels are actually decreased. And it's one of those things, we've had a complete loss of structure, and we need structure. That's a basic human need. We need some sort of structure. And so there's a few different things that you can do. And so working on how to set a work home space for you, designate a space that is just yours. When we're talking about social media, or we're talking about the news, I would set a very strict time to check the news. And it's one of those things, we're looking at the news for an update, not to be overwhelmed by it. It's great to be informed. It's not great to be overwhelmed. And so that's what we need to focus. So I would, 7 a.m., that's a great time. Check the news, see what's going on, see if there's any updates in your county, in your state, in your city, anything that you need to be aware of. Honestly, I wouldn't check it again until the evening because it's out of your control. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Continue on with your day. Be as productive as possible. Do what you can to make sure that you're protecting your headspace, protecting everything about you. And then in the evening, check and just make sure that you are updated on what needs to go on, or eliminate that second check of the day and do it the next morning. checking social media for a limited time. I know that there are apps on your phones, and there's ways that you can actually set a time limit on how much that you're on social media. It also can be very disturbing because I'm sure people have looked recently how much time that they were online over the last couple of months, and it's it's highly increased. But also know that I think that this quarantine has completely changed the way that we're going to use technology moving forward. I think a lot of people are going to continue to work from home. I think that we have realized that we can digitalize a lot of different aspects of our culture, of our community, of how systems work. And I think things are going to become more efficient. So I'm not saying that the technology is a bad thing, but we can use it for connection in a positive way. Zoom, house parties, FaceTime with friends and family, that kind of stuff, and make sure that we are staying connected, but we're not being overwhelmed. So a few things that just, you can control. So making time for yourself. So even just 15 minutes alone a day without distraction is so major. And I don't know if you're a person that likes to meditate. I don't know if you just need downtime. I don't know if you just need a little bit of music and nature or what that looks like, but 15 minutes alone every single day is a big deal. It helps you center. It helps you get to the place that you need to get to so that you can make clear decisions and clean thought processes. So for a lot of parents, with school not being in for the last couple months, who knows about what's going to happen in the fall, the kids might be sleeping in a little bit later. You may still have to go to work, but it's not that typical routine that was so rigid of where everyone's got to be up at this time. We've got to be breakfast. You got to be out the door. We got to be dressed. We're go, 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 go. So use that time in the morning. That's like your personal time before everything happens throughout the day. Learning to say no. So that's really hard. But, I know that I got invited to like 25 different Zoom parties and not just parties, but like events. So like bridal showers and birthday parties and all that kind of stuff. And that can be really overwhelming as well. So being okay with saying like, no, I cannot be on here for 4 hours today doing this stuff. Creating a new routine that allows for grace for you and your family that's not so rigid. Listening to soothing music, finding anything that helps reduce your stress. So some people that's a bath, a shower, a walk. I'm really big on grounding. Every night when I get home, I go to the backyard, I take my shoes off and I do a lap. I think it's a great way to just kind of decompress from the day, and start, like I said, starting your day on your terms. So one great way to get 20 ounces of water in is when you start the coffee pot and you're waiting for your coffee, drink a whole cup of water, and then you get to give yourself coffee after you've drank 20 ounces of water. That's a great way to get your water in. And just remembering that like we cannot control what happens. We can only control our response. And that is probably one of the toughest things that I have to keep reminding myself constantly, no matter what's going on, what's coming at me, how we're moving through things, that I cannot control what's happening, but I can control how I'm responding to it, whether that's in a positive way or a negative way. Okay, we're going to get into some action steps of actually working from home and what that looks like ergonomic wise. So designating a workspace. So moving around, designating a workspace. So, if you have the ability to move your workspace into a separate place that's not your bed, that is not your kitchen table, staring at the refrigerator, and putting all of these temptations right in front of you, that would be ideal. So if you have a spare bedroom, if you actually have an office space, that would be the best place that you can do it. If you cannot do that, then do designate a space that this is when I walk into this space, if it is the kitchen table or a counter or something like that you've set up, that is work time, right? And I would highly recommend not eating dinner there, right? Don't eat your lunches, don't eat your meals there, because you're going to feel this constant pull of I either should be working because I'm staring at it, but I'm sitting here eating, right? Or I'm not enjoying my food, which I prepped and I cooked and I want to enjoy because I see all of my work right there. Okay. So designate a workspace. The other thing is you may have to set a timer to get up and move throughout the day. So that was one of the other things I had a patient talk to me about. Like, man, I'm working from home. I actually enjoy it. Everything's really great. But I noticed that I'm just basically sitting for a long extended period of time, because you have to think about it. You're not doing the small little things like where you might, get up to go ask a coworker a question. Instead, you're just chatting with them, or you shoot him an email real quick. Where at work, when you're in like a space, you may actually physically get up and go do that. Going to the bathroom, doing some sort of social thing, meeting in the break room, those kind of things. You're up and you're moving more throughout the day. When you're at home and you're isolated and kind of by yourself, you may not be motivated to do that. So I would highly recommend setting a timer, and then setting a schedule and planning for, food and restroom breaks. You can protect your work space from unnecessary distractions. I learned that there are apps that you can put on your computer that block the news out and block social media, which is amazing, right? Because I'm pretty sure like for a couple weeks, there was like, I swear every like 20 minutes, it was like breaking news. And this was going on. And I can't even imagine if I was trying to work and then like work on a computer and all of that was constantly bombarding me. So there are apps, there's things that you can do to protect that. There's also something called the Pomodoro method, which is a time management technique. Great to maybe try next week. But basically what you do is you set a timer for 25 minutes, you work for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And then after 4 25-minute sessions, then you take like a 15 to 30-minute break. And then you continue in those intervals throughout the day. This is also great for students when you're studying. This was what I essentially used to study for boards and to study for a lot of our testing throughout school, was using this style of like a technique to where everything has to be broken up in time and you have to be able to step away from something, clear your head, and then come back to it. And then for all of you that were, you're working from home and your family members are there, giving yourself the permission to not feel guilty for stepping away from work to make sure that you can take care of your family. The word unprecedented times has been repeated so much in the last couple months. But I think one of the biggest things that people can take away from this is that you were asked to do something that you essentially didn't sign up for. And so it is okay to have your work time and have your parent time or have your caretaker time, and some of those lines be blurred, but give yourself permission that you're doing the best that you can. Because like I said, this was not something that was asked of you. It was something you were forced to do. And so that is a huge deal, I think, for people, is that I heard a lot of parents saying that they felt really bad that they were either neglecting their kids or they were neglecting work. And that's something that I don't think that should be a situation that anybody should ever be put into, to feel that way. So giving yourself permission that you are doing the best that you can is great. So ways that you can set up your ergonomic workstation at home. So little things that we're looking at when it comes to like the monitor, and you may have to get creative with this. I've got a funny picture coming up next of some very creative ways to work from home. But basically what you're looking for. So whether you're at the kitchen table or you're at your at-home desk, maybe you might be working on a laptop versus your sit to stand desk that you may have at your workstation at the office. But little things that we're looking at good posture. So I would figure out a way to find an ergonomical chair. I would, most of our patients get those wobble cushions. That is a great thing. Put that on your chair. It forces you to sit up straight to where we are in that nice position where our shoulders are rolled back, our ears are back over our shoulders, and we can be in this nice neutral position. So the monitor needs to be at a position where it is ideally, hold on, I want to make sure I missed it. There we go. So the monitor should be raised so that your eyesight is at the top 1/3 of the screen or just a little bit higher. This allows you to see the bottom of the screen, but it also keeps your head in that nice neutral position. If you have 2 screens that you're working on, the one that you are working on most often needs to be the one that is directly in front of you and that you need to be completely squared up to. The one that you're not working on as much can either be slightly to the right or slightly to the left, but your main monitor needs to be set directly in front of you versus having that V, because what that will do, if you are on a computer screen that is just slightly rotated most of the time and you have your mouse over here, do you see what that's doing to you for 6 to 8 hours a day? We're starting to create these compensational angles and forcing our lumbar spine to torque just a little bit and getting a little head tilt going in. And that can start not only causing neck and shoulder issues, but it can start to cause muscle spasms and a lot of other issues just ergonomically. So your shoulders, you want to be squared up to the screen, your shoulder blades pulled back. The mouse needs to be as close to the center of your body as possible. I don't want your mouse way out up here, over to the right, anything like that. That causes what I call computer curve, because at 8 a.m. when you got your coffee, you might be like this, but I guarantee if your shoulders and arm is rolled here and this shoulder is rolled forward, by 6 p.m., You're slouching, you're all over the place. We want your hips and your knees squared up to the computer. You're not leaning forward. You're not in like a bucket position. Ideally, your knees are at that nice 90-degree angle, and that your keyboard is not up here at your chin, not too far down to where you're having to strain or fall forward for it. So creative ways to do this. There are things called sitting knee chairs. This is a great thing. You can order it off of Amazon or at Office Depot, anything like that. This is a great way to get your hips in a nice neutral position. It keeps that good lumbar lordosis, keep your shoulders rolled back. That one down there was just kind of funny. He looks like he's in a dentist chair, but but I mean, it's ergonomically correct. So it's where it needs to be. Nice little at-home hacks that I've been talking to patients about. So a great way, if you've got a desk and you're trying to get those monitors up, building little pieces, like little wood shelves is a great one. If you can go to Walmart or you can order something, or maybe you have them in the back of your closet. One of the easiest things that I found, those old school IKEA style shoe racks that are like wooden. So those are great. If you get one it's about 2 or 3 deep, you can set your monitors right up that. You can use the other things to place all of your paperwork, all that. Use it as a filing system, keeps everything nice and close, and it gets your screens up. Or, if you got to stack books, if you got to go get some boxes, if you got to go get whatever you got to get from the garage, whatever you can do to elevate that so that you're not in this position all day long. Not only is that choking off blood flow and blood supply to your brain, which is necessary as you're working, right? But it's also, it's causing that anterior forward head posture. It's putting too much strain on our neck muscles. So little things, yes, making sure that you have a good seat cushion, making sure that your hips are nice and open, your knees are dropped, your shoulders are rolled back, and we're in that nice neutral position with our head. And then just talking about physical stress. So a lot of those same rules also go for your car. So if you're a person that has to drive a lot, drives to work 15 to 30 minutes a day, a commute, or you drive a ton for work, doing anything that you can. So that picture down there, that's bad. We do not want our lumbar spine in that position to where we are rolled forward. So if you're a patient in your home care kit, you got those lumbar and cervical rolls. That's a great thing to put right in your car chair. So that'll help prop that lumbar lordosis forward. That'll help support your lumbar spine. You can also put it behind your neck while you're watching TV or while you're driving or while you're on an airplane. Watching our technology. So if you've been on your phone too much, making sure that we're not in this position all the time. That's putting way too much strain on the base of our neck. The nerves that come out of the base of our neck are the ones that come out your shoulders. Out your neck, down your shoulders, down to your hands. So if over these last couple months you started experiencing symptoms like numbness and tingling in your hands, you've had too much tension, we're starting to get the chest pains, the aches, that kind of stuff. One of the things I would highly look at is your posture and see, is this a combination of what I'm physically doing to myself all day long? And then you add in the emotional and the chemical stresses, and we put those 3 things together. No wonder I'm feeling this way. So if you're a current patient in our office and you have been experiencing over the last couple months either an increase in any of these symptoms, these are like warning signs, right? Headaches, blood pressure issues, obviously depression, anxiety, numbness and tingling, sciatic issues, dizziness, fatigue, any sort of reflux issues, constipation, digestive stuff, sleep problems. These are warning signs that something in your body is not working. And our body was created and designed to work and heal at 100%. And so we just have to figure out, what is that interference? What is going on? Is it chemical, physical, or emotional? And then how can we address it? So if you're a current patient and maybe some of this over the last couple months, because things have changed so drastically with your home life, with your work life, just stress, and you've been in some sort of maintenance style of care, but you're starting to see an influx in some of these symptoms, maybe we increase your care for a little bit and we figure out, hey, let's see you twice a week for a couple weeks. Let's figure out where you're at, what's going on, and what we can do to get you back to functioning and healing like you need to and like you should be. Right? If you are someone who's never been to our office before, or you are a friend or a family member of a patient, and you've been experiencing any of this, this is the time to fix it is right now. You don't want to let this continue to go on, especially over the next couple months, and allow this to turn into a major issue or a major health problem. And so these are the kind of things that if we can start jumping on this early, we have the chance and the ability to correct it. So these warning signs, it's like the check engine light in your car coming on. It's your body telling you that something is not functioning like it needs to. And so what we offer in the office is for any of our friends or family members. So if you guys have any friends or family members, for the whole month of June, we're doing our friends and family discount. So we do a 60% discount. We have a little referral card for you. So if you have anyone, a coworker, a neighbor, someone from church, anything like that, that has been experiencing any of those warning signs, any of those health issues, or anything that is flaring up that maybe they had resolved at one point, this is a great time. Have them come in. We are open. We are obviously taking all of the precautions that we need to make sure, safety is our number one thing for our patients. But allow us to help you and allow us to help them. So if you want to comment, you can call us. We'll make sure that we get you taken care of. And then also starting next week, one of our campaigns that we are doing here in the city of Knoxville is we are starting a Put It on Our Tab campaign. So if you're already following us on Facebook, keep up with us next week and over the next couple weeks, because we are going to be going to small businesses, local businesses around Knoxville, and we are going to be opening up a tab for our patients. And so we'll let you know what the tab of the day is. Literally all you have to do is you just go there. You say, hey, I'm a patient at Marble City Family Chiropractic, and whatever goods or service. So we've got a juice company, a coffee shop. We've got a produce place that is doing some produce. We've got some restaurants. We've got a bunch of different places that are all on board, and they're super excited to share their goods and services with you. And it is on us. So this is one of those things. I know this has been a very difficult time for a lot of people financially, stress. I mean, just in every single aspect of their life. And so anything that we can do to support our community, that's what we're gonna do. So make sure that you keep your eyes out on social media. So on Instagram, you can follow me, Dr. Alicia Irwin Bloom. You can follow our office page, Marble City Chiro, or follow us on Facebook. And we are going to be opening tabs over the next couple weeks all over the city. And you guys can go there and support our local businesses and sharing some of these products that we love as well. So I just wanted to make sure that we did that for everyone. And so Erin, you got some questions for us? We'll do some Q&A real quick.
Just real quick. It is healthy places for lunches in the Knoxville area.
I love that. Yes.
Meal prep tips.
Absolutely. So some of my favorite places in Knoxville are like good, great, healthy lunches. So we like to eat at Zoe's. So Zoe's is a Mediterranean cafe here up on Bearden Hill. So they have a great option. So I like the cauliflower bowl. So you can get a cauliflower riced bowl with lamb or with chicken. You can also do that at Tzatziki's as well. I'm trying to think some of the places are still open. Tomato Head. I like Tomato Head. They're a great, they've got gluten-free options as well as vegan options. Why am I drawing blanks right now? Because I eat all the time. I eat everywhere all the time. Oh, Chipotle. So Chipotle is another great option. You can do their salad bowl there. And so they've got a salad or like a keto bowl. And so it's their chicken, their guacamole. They use no antibiotics, that kind of stuff in their foods. Ideally, just staying away from a lot of the fast food chains because they're going to be higher in those trans fats, hydrogenated oils, fried foods. And meal prep. So that is something that is difficult because you have to make the time for it. So there's a couple different options. So in one way, if you're a person that actually likes to cook, you have to be real with where you're at. If you're a person that doesn't like to cook, me telling you to start the Whole30 plan or doing our advanced plan where it takes a lot of food prep, it's probably not going to happen. So there's a couple options. If you're not a person that likes to cook, I would highly recommend. So there's a company called Vibrant Meals where you can order already pre-made like paleo, grass-fed, organic meals. They're out of Chattanooga. They deliver to Knoxville. You order them on Fridays. They're delivered here on Mondays. Actually, right down the parking lot from our office is a place called Clean Eats. Same thing. You can go in there. They have freezers full of already pre-made meals, and you can go in there like on Monday, buy yourself 10 meals. You can do the family meals. You can do the individual ones. They've got things like, sweet potato and chicken with a vegetable. They've got like a turkey burger with broccoli and like that kind of stuff. They've got some naughty stuff too. So, but that would be a great way that if you're just a person that's not a great meal prepper, that kind of stuff. So we do that if we were traveling over the weekend, got home late on Sunday and just didn't have time to meal prep. That's typically what we end up doing is we go somewhere who's already pre-made some meals, and we at least do that for our lunches. And then we make dinner at home. If you like to food prep, it's all about sourcing and making a plan. So on our Max Living website, there is a recipe vault under the patient resources. It has over 1,000 recipes in it that are all, so most grain-free, sugar-free, majority of them are dairy-free or a good dairy substitute with them. So there is an arsenal of recipes in there. I use the Instapot a lot. So I have a book called Paleo Instapot. That is what is a lifesaver for us personally on food prep. We get a meat delivery every single month called Butcher Box. And so it's a delivery. It comes once a month. And so we typically get, chicken thighs, chicken breasts, drumsticks, wings, like all that kind of stuff, because everything's pasture raised. And so we'll use the Instapot and we'll just cook a whole vat of it. We use the Instapot for a ton of stuff on Sunday meal prepping, and also like crock pot. Man, that's a great way that's easy ways to meal prep. Ideally soon we'll be able to do shop with the dog again. And as soon as we do that, I would love to show you. A lot of the grocery stores also have the little area where it's all of the pre-mixed vegetables that are already sliced and chopped and cut for you. So if you're kind of like, I actually don't mind putting the meals together and cooking them, but I really don't like the prep work of meal prepping, that's kind of a great little cheat, right? Go get the stuff that's already cut up, everything's already done for you, and then put it together appropriately. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, this is our first live. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that. If you have any other questions, obviously feel free to shoot us a Facebook message. You can ask me if you're coming into the office. And hopefully we'll be doing some more of these soon if there's any topics that you guys would prefer. I love to talk about nutrition. I love talking about toxins and chemicals and personal care products, all of that. We're doing our workouts online. So, please join us. And I hope you guys have a great evening. Take some deep breaths. Do something good for yourself.